This woman was unalived by a clown. And not in a movie, not in a nightmare, but in broad daylight, in front of her own home, while her child stood nearby waiting for a birthday party to begin. On the morning of May 26, 1990, Marlene Warren woke up in her Wellington, Florida home focused on something simple and joyful. It was her son's birthday. The house was active and full of life, with preparations underway for a small celebration. There were plans, decorations, and the kind of nervous excitement that always comes with hosting family and friends. Nothing about that morning suggested danger. Sometime around 11 a.m., the doorbell rang. When Marlene opened the door, she was met by a clown standing on her doorstep. The clown wore a bright orange wig, full face paint, and a costume that looked cheerful and harmless. In one hand were flowers, in the other were balloons, one that read, "Happy Birthday," and another that said, "You Ray the Greatest." Marlene smiled. She stepped forward, likely assuming this was a surprise entertainer for her son's party. As she reached out to accept the flowers, the clown pulled out a gun and fired. Marlene collapsed in her doorway. Her son, who was nearby, witnessed the moment his mother fell to the ground. The clown turned around calmly, walked back to a car parked nearby, and drove away as if nothing had happened. Marlene was rushed to the hospital, but 2 days later she passed away from her injuries. Florida had just become the center of one of the strangest and most haunting murder cases in American history. From the very beginning, investigators believed this was not a random act. The clown disguise wasn't meant to be funny, it was strategic. Whoever committed this crime wanted to approach Marlene without raising suspicion, and they succeeded. Police quickly turned their attention to Marlene's personal life, and what they uncovered painted a very different picture from the happy family scene that morning. Marlene was married to Michael Warren, a wealthy businessman who owned a successful car dealership. On the outside, their life looked stable and comfortable, but inside the marriage, things were unraveling. Michael was openly having an affair with a woman named Sheila Keene, and many people close to the family were aware of it. The relationship wasn't a secret, and it created tension. Investigators learned that Marlene had recently become more assertive about the affair, and there were signs of growing conflict. This immediately raised questions about motive. Then came the physical clues. Witnesses reported seeing a white Chrysler LeBaron leaving the neighborhood shortly after the shooting. That detail became critical because Sheila Keene had access to a white Chrysler LeBaron at the time. Even more disturbing, police obtained surveillance footage from a nearby grocery store taken shortly before the murder. The footage showed a woman dressed as a clown buying balloons. She had a similar build and long hair consistent with Sheila Keene. Despite all of this, the case stalled. In 1990, forensic technology was limited. There was no DNA match strong enough to bring charges. The clown costume was not immediately recovered. The weapon was never found. And without concrete physical evidence, prosecutors couldn't move forward. The case went cold. Michael Warren collected Marlene's life insurance payout. Not long after, he married Sheila Keene. Life went on. For decades, the image of a clown committing murder lived on in the public imagination, but the people at the center of the case continued living freely. The questions never disappeared, but the justice system had no answers. That changed more than 20 years later. In the 2010s, advances in DNA technology allowed cold cases to be reopened with fresh eyes. Investigators revisited the Marlene Warren case and re-examined evidence that had once been considered useless. Hair fibers linked to the clown costume were finally tested using modern forensic methods. The result was explosive. The DNA matched Sheila Keene Warren. In 2017, nearly 27 years after Marlene was shot, Sheila was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The news shocked the country. One of the most infamous cold cases in Florida history was suddenly alive again. Prosecutors argued that Sheila planned the murder carefully, using the clown disguise as a way to get close to Marlene without resistance. They believed jealousy and obsession fueled the crime, and that the cheerful costume was meant to disarm, deceive, and distract. Sheila's defense team pushed back hard, arguing that the evidence was circumstantial and that the passage of time had distorted the case. Michael Warren was never charged, and his involvement was never legally proven. In 2023, Before the case could go to trial, Sheila Keene Warren accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and received a 12-year prison sentence, with credit for time already served. For Marlene's family, the plea brought some sense of closure, but also frustration. Many questions remained unanswered. Why did it take so long? Was anyone else involved? And how does someone live freely for decades after committing a crime this calculated? The murder of Marlene Warren remains chilling not because of how violent it was, but because of how ordinary it looked until the very last moment. A doorbell, a smile, a costume meant to entertain, and a life ended in seconds. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Stories like this matter because they remind us how easily danger can hide behind familiar faces. If you want more deep dive true crime stories told carefully and honestly, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And as always, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next story.